What's our seat number?
Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number. Let's get right into it. We are talking about Superman.
Superman.
Superman. Superman who? Exactly. Yes, very droll, sir.
So before we get into this discussion, I just want to explain why we're talking about two different versions of exactly the same movie. The reason is because it's not exactly the same movie. And the history behind it, in case anybody doesn't know, or if I didn't explain it very well in the previous episode, is that Superman 1 and Superman 2 were both shot at the same time. And at some point in principal photography, time ran out, budget ran out, and the producers decided to focus on finishing Superman the movie and getting that out. And at the time, they hadn't shot the ending for Superman 1, so they used the ending that they were going to use in Superman 2, which was the reversing time, closed that off, and released it as Superman the movie. And then when it came to Superman 2, the tensions that had been rising on the set between director Richard Donner and producer Pierre Spengler and the other producers Ilya and Alexander Salkind was just at an all-time high. We're an all-time high. And Donner told the Salkinds unequivocally, if Pierre Spengler is not fired and removed from Superman 2, he is not going to continue working on it. And there are conflicting reports about this, but the long and short of it is that Donner was in fact let go. And so they brought in Alexander and Ilya Salkin's friend Richard Lester, who had directed the Beatles movies Help and A Hard Day's Night, and he'd also directed the Three and the Four Musketeers in the mid-70s for the Salkinds. And he'd been acting as a go-between anyway, so they brought him in to finish off Superman 2. Donner had shot about 80% of Superman 2 by this point, and in order for Richard Lester to get a director's credit, he had to reshoot a lot of scenes so that he could claim over 50% of the footage and get a director's credit. So that is the long and short of the story. And in 2006, Warner Brothers gave Richard Donner the chance to complete Superman 2 in his vision, using the footage that was ultimately left on the cutting room floor of Richard Lester's version. It's my preferred version. I think that the jokey tone of Superman 2, the theatrical cut, is very much at odds with what Donner was trying to do. And something else here that's important to mention is that Marlon Brando does not feature in the theatrical cut of Superman 2. I believe that the decision to split the two movies up happened during production, and if I remember correctly, that Marlon Brando's contract stated that he was shooting material for one movie only. So in order for them to use it in the second movie, they would have had to pay him out quite a lot of money. And the Salkinds didn't want to do that. So in the end, we got Susanna York, who played Lara, Kal-El's mother in the beginning of Superman the movie, but it doesn't have quite the same impact. And those scenes restored in the Richard Donner cut with Marlon Brando are some of the best of the series. So we are going to continue our discussion. I wanted to move on to the Superman 2 theatrical version. The reshot opening of Superman 2, the Richard Lester version, first of all has that kind of very sort of theatrical opening with Non going and breaking the Kryptonian guard's neck, and then you've got the three Kryptonians doing something that you're not actually sure what they're doing.
What are they up to?
Yeah, what are they
doing?
up to? And then they've got that sort of comical kind of looking around thing when they realize that they've been caught.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that always happen? I don't know. Like, I mean, did they not expect something like that to happen? And then the three hula hoops come down, or the two hula hoops come down.
Here's the thing, right? About those hula hoops.
Right.
In the first movie, you accept it because of
Marlon Brando's performance.
Well, it's not just...
And Terrence Stamp's performance.
It just feels like how everything else is black.
Yeah.
And, the heads are above them, and he's holding this cane with the crystal in it. It's kind of like, this is alien, this is sci-fi.
Right.
And just the way it was presented in the rest of it, like he didn't get the sci-fi, and it was like, it's a little weird.
It also kind of accentuates the Buck Rogers uniforms.
Yeah.
Those awful black vinyl, skin-tight leotards or whatever they are. Or they look like they're about to go clubbing in the 70s, and like John Travolta coming along going, "Hey, how you doing? Let's go have a dance off." Yeah.
Don't fuck with me. I know this shit.
Yeah. Hey, Kryptonians. I just want to talk to you, okay?
Want to be a friend. Say hi to your mother for me, okay?
So, oh shit! It's Mark Wahlberg. Hide.
Run.
Run. So, yeah, tell me what you think of the original Richard Donner opening of Superman the movie with Marlon Brando and the original the original Stuart Baird editing of that, because there is a difference in the Donner cut.
There is a difference.
And the way that it contrasts with Lester's reshot version. I'll tell you before you start, the history here is that Brando shot for about 10 to 12 days, I think, on the whole thing, including all of the shots on black velvet and blue screen and all that stuff, so that he could appear as a floating head in the Fortress of Solitude. He started making all of these weird suggestions that I'll also get to later on, but
I'm so happy.
He made about $14 million or something like that for his screen time, and Brando wanted another payout to appear again in Superman 2, and the Salkinds were too cheap to pay him out. And I understand that it would have been probably a bit of a knock to the budget, quite a bit of a knock to the budget. You wanted something in the millions, but at the same time, it's also a knock to the quality of the movie, because suddenly you don't have Jor-El there, and now you've got the floating heads. Who have also been reshot, and then you've got Terrence Stamp.
The floating heads are in the first movie as well,
but I think they were reshot.
And they look worse, you're saying?
No, not worse, but the performances are not the same as they were before. Yeah, and then you've got Terrence Stamp yelling at Jor-El, who doesn't appear.
This council has no hesitation in proclaiming you all guilty. 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 Guilty.
You will lie down before me, Jor-El! Both you and them one day, Jor-El! Jor-El!
So, I don't think I've ever properly appreciated Marlon Brando's acting in the whole opening section, right? The trial is such a great opening, and it definitely introduces... this sort of stoic, no-nonsense kind of guy.
Right.
Very logical.
General Zod, once trusted by this council, charged with maintaining the defense of the planet Krypton itself, chief architect of this intended revolution and author of this insidious plot to establish a new order amongst us, with himself as absolute ruler. You have heard the evidence. The decision of the council will now be heard.
Guilty.
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 And then that's reinforced with what he says to the council afterwards. You know me to be neither impulsive nor rash. Mm-hmm. But when he has to say goodbye to Kal-El right before, Lara rests her head on his shoulder, he looks almost like he's about to break down. It's very, very subtle, but it's a very emotional performance. So I don't think he was phoning it in at all. I think that he
wasn't phoning it in.
He was definitely... I love that trial. I love how crazy Terrence Stamp is.
I offer you a chance for greatness, Jor-El. Take it. Join us. You will bow down before me, Jor-El. I swear it. No matter that it takes an eternity, you will bow down before me! Both you, and then one day, your heirs!
I mentioned before Stuart Baird. Stuart Baird, for anybody that doesn't know, is an editor and director, and he worked with Donner a few times, I believe. He also edited Casino Royale. He directed Executive Decision, U.S. Marshals, and Star Trek Nemesis, but we'll give him a pass for that. But yeah, I mean, he knows what he's doing. And the way that he cuts together that trial sequence, especially like cutting to Terrence Stamp's eyes, Terrence Stamp's mouth. It's very strong.
It's intense.
Yeah. And there's a recut of that sequence in the beginning of the Richard Donner cut that just doesn't have the same energy. So I just wanted to sort of mention Stuart Baird here and like just appreciate how much of an influence he must have had on
editing in general.
Editing in general, but also like and how an alternate cut or a different editor can completely change the feeling of a scene. So I love that sequence. I think that Brando is channeling his best sort of RSC kind of performance. And I think that he sells it. I mean, the Salkin's idea of hiring him and Hackman was to bring legitimacy to something that could be considered camp, and he does. It's true. He does lend weight, especially to that opening sequence. And then they reshot it for 2 and completely omitted him, and it suffers for it, I think.
Absolutely. And also the way that they present, the charges for Ursa, Non, Zod it's different. It's different text.
Yeah.
It's spoken in a different way. It loses a lot of the weight and the gravitas from Brando's performance.
Yeah, and also the alternate take of Terrence Stamp in the theatrical version as well is that you just sort of hear him echoing in the distance, going, "But you and then one day your ass," and in the theatrical cut, he's made a point of it.
And one day your ass.
It's made very clear that at some point he's going to come after Clark. Kal-El. My little Kal-El. The planet Krypton. Oh, if he'd have been played by Max von Sydow, that would have been brilliant.
Little clickety-clack. Clickety-clack of little spider feet. No footsteps up the stairs. No hovercraft out the window, and no clickety-click of little spiders. Do you know why I can't hear any of those things, Danny? Because right now, the precogs can't see a thing.
That's the first strike against the theatrical cut, the lack of Marlon Brando. The second one, okay, so I sort of got the feeling from a lot of people that I've spoken to online, people that I've asked, that there is a lot of nostalgia towards the theatrical cut, the Richard Lester cut of Superman 2. And I spoke about it in the context portion. I do have a certain amount of nostalgia. Once the Donner cut came to being, once I saw those scenes that were left on the cutting room floor just out of vanity and pride and cost cutting and whatever else was going on there, it made it feel like a patchwork. Suddenly I was able to tell the difference very quickly between the Lester footage and the Donner footage.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a quick rundown of what you can, if you're gonna watch it, like this is how you can tell which is which. First of all, anything with Miss Tessmacher,
vibrant colors.
No, so yeah, okay. So talk about the cinematography. Jeffrey Unsworth's cinematography. Jeffrey Unsworth died between the first block of principal photography and Richard Lester's shoot. So the hazy, blooming highlights, all of that sort of soft focus cinematography is gone. No, it's like the Lester footage doesn't have that.
I'm saying that they replaced it with nonsense.
Right. It looks different.
It just looks very.
It looks kind of
very, very vibrant. Like just everything's very saturated.
Right.
And it bugged me.
What, the Lester footage?
Yeah.
Right. So there's that. There's also, you can see that Margot Kidder's face is now almost skeletal. She's very gaunt in the Lester footage. You can tell the difference between when she was shooting in 77 and when she was shooting in 1979, I want to say, or 80, or whenever it was that they were shooting that portion. She was, as I said before, she was going through a divorce and she was drinking heavily and smoking heavily, and she'd gotten much skinnier. She looks very different. She still pronounces her M's as V's. So when she says, "Can you read my mind?" Like she kind of rests her teeth on her top lip, and there's a scene where it gets in Superman 4 just after the what I was talking about with the flying sequence, where she comes to and she she's forgotten what just happened. She said, "Why am I standing out here freezing my butt off?" Like all of that is is with the teeth. So it got worse as time went on.
Lois, it's time to go. We'll be late.
Huh? What am I doing out here freezing my butt off?
But yeah, can you read my mind? Now you won't be able to ignore that. You'll notice it every time you see it.
Jesus. Yeah. Why have I come here today?
Right.
Ruining it. Ruined.
So there's that. Any scene that involves... So you can see when Margot Kidder is looking a little bit younger, a little fuller in the lips, that's when she was shooting with Donna. You can see any footage that contains Gene Hackman or Ned Beatty or saw Valerie Perrine as Miss Tessmacher. All of that was the Donna section. Gene Hackman didn't come back for the reshoot, so they used a body double on certain scenes, and Miss Tessmacher kind of disappears from the movie halfway through. Anything with Jor-El in it, obviously the Marlon Brando footage in the Donna cut is present and correct. There's also you can see a difference in Christopher Reeve's physique. He didn't get fat or anything, but you can see that his face is wider. Like the cheekbones are more defined. You can see that he looks different in both versions. So now that you got all that information, I've just ruined the theatrical cut of Superman 2 for you, because people talk about the Donna cut.
I don't watch the theatrical cut anymore.
Right.
I don't need to.
People sometimes critique the Richard Donner cut by saying it's incomplete. Well, by its very definition, it's incomplete. It's an incomplete movie. It is basically put together with all of the footage that was left over that Donner shot, filled in whatever blanks there were, and there's about 20% missing that wasn't shot. There's the repurposed ending, which they shot for Superman 2, which contains all of the, the sort of the rewind stuff that they did with, you've got Perry White with the toothpaste going backwards and all that kind of stuff. And they shot a scene, sort of an epilogue in the Daily Planet as well. That sort of reflects the fact that time has been turned back and nobody remembers anything of what happened before. They patched it up with bits of Lester's footage here and there. They repurposed John Williams' score. It's not a complete movie. But now I also look at the theatrical cut as being an incomplete movie because that's also a patchwork. And they brought in Ken Thorne to replace John Williams, and the score is much tinnier, it's less full, it's less inspired.
Sweeping.
I find that both films are a patchwork and a complete missed opportunity. And if they hadn't fired Donner, and there's like conflicting reports about this as well, but if they hadn't fired Donner and just taken everybody, Donner and P.S. Spengler, the producer, and the Salkins, had just taken their egos out of the equation and just finished the fucking movie, the two movies would have been this sweeping epic arc of brilliance.
And then they could have fired him after the second one.
Yeah.
And done whatever they wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
I have replaced the theatrical cut in my mind and heart with
in your mind
and my heart. My mind.
In your mind. Can you be my mind?
It's like Sir Hunter, you persist.
Yeah,
as soon as you pointed that out,
nope.
Can't watch it anymore.
Sir Hunter, you persist.
I can't watch the theatrical cut anymore. I really like the Richard Donner cut just because of also how much more subtlety there is in, they don't have non going and weird sound effects, and there's a lot of slapstick that's been taken out of it.
Right.
In the fight in Metropolis, people aren't being like blown over or the ice cream going into the guy's face.
Which gets turned up to 11 in the opening sequence of Superman 3.
Okay, I haven't seen 3 and 4 in preparation for this podcast today. You did.
Do you remember the Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of slapstick in those movies as well. That's basically Lester's style.
Yeah.
He didn't grow up reading the comics. He had absolutely no loyalty to them whatsoever. So he was just basically a jobbing director coming in to fill in for somebody who had been fired. And he's basically using his sensibility to basically shoehorn these slapstick sequences into something that didn't need them.
Wouldn't you kind of respect the vision of the original director and kind of...
The thing is that Donner, when he explains how it came to be and what it is, that there was another director brought in, a fellow whose name he forgets on purpose. So obviously there's a feud there going on. They didn't get along, and because he was brought in during the first block of principal photography to act as a go-between between Donner and the producers and the Salkins, and specifically P.S. Spengler, who Donner really had this antagonistic relationship with. So I think that there's that Lester didn't have any kind of loyalty towards Donner and his vision whatsoever.
It's professional courtesy, I'd call it. It doesn't have to be loyalty.
Well, I mean, I think it should be for the good of the movie, not for the good of stroking somebody's ego. And the Salkins were in it to make a lot of money. I mean, you saw what happened with Superman 3.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, let's bring in Richard Pryor." What's that got to do with Superman?
Anything.
Nothing. But Richard Pryor was making big bucks at the time, Brewster's Millions, and all those like movies that he was doing with Gene Wilder. It's like the Warner Brothers executives saying, okay, who do we want for the Riddler? Jim Carrey's hot right now. Let's bring in Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
That's... ma'am. So yeah, I'm watching The Batman last night with my wife, and and explaining to her what the Riddler was before he was the Zodiac killer. Basically, is like, she was going, "This guy's creepy. I'm glad I didn't see it in the cinema. I would have been scared shitless." I'm like, "Yeah, he's creepy. That's but that's the thing, like you bring in, you bring in an actor just because they're popular. It doesn't matter if he fits into the universe at all. And they were making the big bucks out of it, and then they quite. After Supergirl bombed, basically, they sold off the property to Golan and Globus, which just goes to show how much they didn't give a shit about the Superman brand whatsoever. So it was all about making money for them, which is why it turned out like it did. So the silly Lester win sequence. There's also a lot of that going on in the opening sequence, the Paris sequence. There's quite a bit of like with the terrorists, the comedy terrorists. You got Richard Griffiths in there. Doing a comedy foreign accent. I do like, just in general, like Christopher Reeve lights up everything.
Yeah.
So he comes in to rescue Lois when she's, she goes up in an elevator in the Eiffel Tower, and the elevator starts to fall, and he comes in and he catches it, and then he says, "I believe this is your floor."
I believe this is your floor.
Oh, thank God.
It's just so perfect line delivery, everything. The hydrogen bomb that these terrorists have planted and threatened to explode on the top of the Eiffel Tower is what releases
the Phantom Zone.
the Kryptonians from the Phantom Zone in this version. So I dislike that mainly because I think it should have tied into one, and it should have been the missile. But which it was. The rule was that it had to be a certain percentage of footage for Lester to get a directorial credit.
Right.
So they decided to nix quite a lot of Donner's stuff, which hurt the movie a lot, I think. Yeah.
Agreed.
I also noticed that the effects weren't as polished. I think that they took a lot of time and an effort painstakingly creating the effects in the first movie.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, it's just kind of by the by. And it's very janky.
Although in the Donner cut, they were,
the Donner cut,
a lot of them were sort of rescued, and like the thing where in the fight I think Zod punches him and he spins off into the Statue of Liberty's flame torch thing. Yeah.
But it's done. It's done after the fact as well. There's a lot of like bad CGI in there as well. We'll get to the Donner cut in full in a minute, but there were quite a few things that really bothered me in the theatrical cut of 2.
Right.
The random powers that have no basis in the continuity. For example, pointing and lifting someone into the air, which Zod does.
With his finger, white beam coming out of his finger.
That's never made an appearance before or since. The plastic cellophane S that he pulls off his chest, and
what in the name? Do you have anything in that massive wad of paper of yours that explains that?
No, it's I think Family Guy kind of.
Yeah, where he throws it at him and he's like, "Oh, what?" And he's like, "Oh, I was just."
Just a minor inconvenience.
That showed you.
Yeah.
yeah. You really showed me.
Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah.
In Superman 2, what is the story with that cellophane S that Superman rips off his chest and throws at the bad guy?
Prepare to be destroyed, Superman.
What was that? Yeah, take that, you jerk.
That was a minor inconvenience.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. Slowed you down.
I'll say. Ow.
Didn't see that coming, did you?
No.
Yeah, well, take that.
So, and the whole teleportation thing. Now, I don't understand.
What teleportation thing?
The whole thing that he sort of...
The little game. I used to play this game as a kid.
Yeah, so I don't understand how he used to play it as a kid. Is he talking about on Krypton? Because he was a baby on Krypton. the way that he says it kind of
shows that
suggests that he played it in Kryptonian school with his Kryptonian friends or something.
Exactly. And it just shows how Lester does not understand the
or
source
maybe
material.
I misunderstood it, and like he used to play it with his human friends in school, and they didn't know what was going on because they didn't know that he was super. But anyway,
I hardly think that they thought that far out. Like, you know, that they tried to make it make sense.
There's
also how, you know, Lois is very dumb in that. But Superman, I knew you'd. Huh?
I used to play this game at school. Never was very good at it.
Superman, I knew that you'd...
Yeah, that's
really quite bad.
Yeah. Something that I had forgotten that maybe I'd kind of blocked it out, but Sheriff J.W. Pepper appears.
Mm-hmm.
Clifton James basically reprising his role from Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun.
Same guy.
I know you.
Oh,
You're that secret agent, that English secret agent from England.
No.
Now I know you.
Oh, no.
You're that secret agent. That English secret agent from England.
Yeah, so he... oh, no. So he just appears in the middle of this whole thing when the three Kryptonians start terrorizing a small town. And it's just... It's as if they were... You know, they were like, okay... Here's what we're going to do, Lester. Let's shoot it like an episode of Little House on the Prairie and have Timmy fall down the well or Lassie or whatever, you know. Like, it's just so cheesy and awful, and it really doesn't work. Like, you see it in the Donner cut as well, because they had nothing else to plug that hole, and it just contrasts so badly with the rest of it.
So this is the planet Houston.
A strange surface. We all have them, my dear. To that end, Terrence Stamp visibly has longer hair and slightly more grey in his beard in the Lester version. Yeah, and he's also a little bit more in that version. Kneel before Zod. He's a little bit more sinister in the Donner cut, and Non also with his.
Just sounds like a very confused Scooby-Doo, doesn't he?
Yes.
Like every time he's what he tries to, what was it that didn't he have something, and then like something he wanted to play with, and then Terrence Stamp breaks it or something happens. I don't know. Then he's just like,
I don't know.
Am I making that up? You just watched the movie.
It might be a Stinger missile or something that he snaps into. I don't know. No, there's the siren light.
Right, exactly.
From the top of the police car, and he cradles it like a baby.
Yeah.
He's like,
exactly.
Unbelievable.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. I haven't actually seen the Lester cut this time. I just watched the Donner cut.
Right. The only one of the three Kryptonians that comes out unscathed is Sarah Douglas, who plays Ursa. She's just the same in all of it. But, I like that she shows a little bit of range, even in I think it's also in the Lester version when they're in the Oval Office. That's another way you can tell as well. All the stuff that was shot in the Oval Office is Donna's.
Yeah.
When they're sort of bored, and she kind of shows some compassion towards Zod. She's like, you're the master of all you survey. Like, there's something compassionate about her that shows like that there's a certain amount of...
sycophantic.
Well, either way, there's a range of emotions that you don't see so much in the Lester cut of the three of them. They're just evil, mustache twirling villains. The differences between the Niagara Falls sequences in the Lester and Donner cuts.
Yeah.
For example, the kid that gets saved. Like, I always remembered that with a very fondly. I remember that save. It's a very good scene, I guess. But the way that the kid is sort of like playing on the railing on the wrong side of it has always struck me as dumb as fuck, and it made me want to that's child services right there. Take the kid away.
Why are the parents not more like? I would be concerned if my child was doing that on the correct side of the don't climb up on that. What are you doing? Get down, you crazy? You want to die? Is that it? Is that what you want?
Hey Mom, look! Yeah, honey, that's nice.
Yeah. Then the kid falls into the falls, and Superman comes in to save the day. And that's how Lois realizes
Clark
that
isn't here as usual.
Yeah, and also the woman going, "What a nice man! Of course he's Jewish." Oh, God's sake.
Dear. Isn't there like a mother who smacks her kid round the face in that scene? Like, did you notice that?
Yes, I remember
that was like, whoa.
No, but there's also that bit where he saves the cat in Superman 1. And she goes, "Didn't I tell you to stop telling
lying."
lies?"
Yeah.
Mommy! Frisky was stuck in the tree. This man swooped out of the sky and gave him to me.
Haven't I told you to stop telling lies?
You don't see her slap the child. You hear it.
You hear it, yes.
I noticed that this time as well. I was like watching it and I had looked away for a second and then I heard, "Don't tell lies." And I was like, what? And I went back and I was like, oh, you don't even see it. But that's like an odd thing to add in at the end.
Right.
Could you imagine if that was Richard Donner's White Doves? Like, if in every movie there's a parent slapping a child around the face.
So the Niagara Falls sequence, they replaced in the Donner cut the sequence where Lois figures out that Clark is Superman because he falls and his hand goes in the fire and she sees he's completely unscathed. And there's also the scene where she throws herself into the falls and he like sort of laser eyes the log to then he tells her to grab it. Lois, grab the log.
Yeah.
You know, that's those two sequences are all right for the purpose that they serve.
I mean, I prefer what they did with...
In the Donner cut, she throws herself out the window. It's stronger.
Yeah.
She throws herself out the top floor of the Daily Planet. And
yeah, but the reason that works so well is because when they have him super speed out of the Daily Planet down to the ground,
right,
you get to see papers flying everywhere.
Right.
Which gives that sort of feeling of speed. It's just they were able to do more with what they did there.
And then in the screen test that they replaced it with in the Donner cut, where she finds out that Clark is Superman, is that she's got a gun with blanks and she shoots him. And he says, "You do realize that if you'd been wrong, Clark Kent would have been killed." And she goes, "What, with a blank?" And then he goes, "Ah, shit.
I risked my life instead of yours.
Lois, don't be insane.
And don't fall down, because you're just going to have to get up again."
No, Lois, now don't be crazy now. What?
I guess I've known this for the longest time.
You realize, of course, if you'd been wrong, Clark Kent would have been killed.
With a blank? Gotcha.
The screen test probably would have been refined when you refined. What a nice man. When it got to actual, shooting it, actual production, but they wanted to sort of show that was the original intent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which I prefer of the two of those, to be honest, because they're both all right. I mean, the way that he's so pissed off in the Lester cut. He kind of like bangs his hand down and and she goes, "I'm sorry," and he goes, "Now that you know, I think you should know everything."
You are Superman.
Oh, Lois, come on, don't be...
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have anything to be sorry about. I don't know why I did that.
Maybe you wanted to.
I don't think I did.
I like that sequence. It plays very nicely, but I'm kind of sad that we'll never get to see how Donner would have actually shot that whole thing.
I'm fine with how it looks. I mean, obviously his hair length.
It's a screen test. It's not polished.
It's not polished, but it's definitely, the electricity is definitely there and it works, and it's great.
Right. I can see that I can't help talking about the theatrical cut without comparing the scenes. So we'll just do it like this from here on in.
Messy.
Yeah, messy. Okay, let's talk about the Fortress of Solitude. In the Lester cut, first of all, the molecule chamber is this flimsy, plastic-looking. Well, you know what? I'll be fair. Pyrex. It's this like sort of maybe soda, maybe even epoxy resin or something like that.
Why are you making guesses about what it's made out of?
I'll tell you why.
Shabby.
I'll tell you why. Because when the door has to come up out of the ground in order to close the molecule chamber, and it wobbles.
Yes.
And it just looks very, very janky, or shoddy, or shonky. But yeah, it looks pretty bad. And then in the Donner cut, it's a chamber made out of crystals, and you see like like behind the crystals, his face is all distorted underneath it, and it's just better.
And he leans his hand against the inside. Yeah.
So in the Lester cut, the crystals that come out are these kind of like sort of blocky glass things. And instead of Marlon Brando, we get Susanna York. Now, Susanna York played Lara. Who is Kal-El's mother. And while I do appreciate her in the movie because she is part of the opening sequence of 1, at the same time, it's nothing compared to the chemistry that he has with Brando.
Mm-hmm.
And those scenes
and it's
are
also,
just,
where is he?
Yeah, exactly.
Do they ever explain that?
The bald-headed guy who recites a poem is supposed to be Jor-El.
I see.
Yeah, so he's there, but he's just not Marlon Brando. It doesn't make very much sense. He sleeps with Lois very, very quickly in the Lester cut, and I think, if I remember correctly from this viewing, like he sleeps with her after he makes the decision to become powerless, and it doesn't take him very long to decide on that.
Yeah.
There's this whole sort of back and forth between Jor-El and Kal-El about why he shouldn't do it and whatever, whereas Susanna York kind of just says to him, I don't think you should do this, and he's like, but I love her, mother. And she goes, all right then, step into this thing.
Your father and I tried to anticipate your every question, Kal-El. This is the one we hoped you would not ask.
But I have to, because she's everything I want in life.
And she, the one you have chosen, she feels as much for you?
Yes.
Then if this is what you wish, if you intend to live your life with a mortal, you must live as a mortal. You must become one of them. This crystal chamber has harnessed the rays of the red sun of Krypton. Once exposed to these rays, all your great powers on Earth will disappear forever. But consider, once it is done, there is no return. You will become an ordinary man. You will feel like an ordinary man. You can be hurt like an ordinary man.
My son, I have tried to anticipate your every question. This was one I'd hoped you would not ask.
My attachment, the feelings which I have developed for a certain human being have deeply affected me, Father.
You cannot serve humanity by investing your time and emotion in one human being at the expense of the rest. The concepts are mutually exclusive.
And if I no longer wish to serve humanity,
is this how you repay their gratitude? By abandoning the weak, the defenseless, the needy for the sake of your selfish pursuits.
Selfish? After all I've done for them? Will there ever come a time when I've served enough? At least they get a chance for happiness. I only ask as much, no more.
Yours is a high happiness. The fulfillment of your mission, the inspiration you must have felt. You must have felt that happiness within you. My son, surely you cannot deny that feeling.
No, I cannot. Any more than I can deny the other, which is stronger in me, Father. So much stronger. Is there no way then, Father? Must I finally be denied the one thing in life which I truly desire?
If you will not be Kal-El, if you will live as one of them, love their kind as one of them, then it follows that you must become one of them.
And then you have these weird like animations of like his skin coming off,
it's weird.
All that stuff, which contrasts like at the very end when the Kryptonians are outside and he reverses the polarity of the neutron flow, and the molecule chamber is basically protecting him and taking away the Kryptonians' powers on the outside. Skipping to the end, that doesn't happen to them. So that kind of...
It's very strange.
Yeah, it's very strange. But then, crucially, he sleeps with her after that. And then in the Donner cut, he sleeps with her while he's still Superman.
Which makes sense for Superman Returns.
Which makes sense for Superman Returns. Which, again, sort of gives me that like kind of incomplete feeling where the theatrical cut is incomplete, the Donner cut is incomplete, the offshoot from Superman Returns has to refer to a particular cut, which is basically an extended special feature.
Yeah.
And then you have to have known that was what happened in order to have the context of Lois giving birth to a super baby in Superman Returns. So there's it's a whole thing. It's a whole can of worms.
Mess.
It's a mess, pretty much like this episode. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to cover when I get to properly talking about the Donner cut, but
we're not even properly talking about the Donner cut yet.
Not yet. The kiss.
4-hour episode.
The kiss. Let's talk about the kiss. I mentioned before that it was originally supposed to be that he reverses time.
Yeah.
In the Lester cut, because Clark doesn't want Lois to live with the knowledge that he's Superman and not be able to be with him, because the whole point is, and I don't think it's established in the Lester cut either, more than it is in the Donner cut, because in the Donner cut, Jor-El says to him, you cannot put one of them above any of the others, which means this union is forbidden. You can't have a relationship with any of them. Superman 3 completely undermines that whole thing, because he makes Lois forget, but it's all right for him to be dating Lana Lang in Superman 3, Annette O'Toole, who, by the way, is a fox, but that's not reason enough, I don't think, to sort of break that kind of oath. So in the Lester cut, the solution is that he gives her a kiss, and she forgets everything. She forgets that he's Superman, and it's very much a Deus Ex Machina, because it's not established in any way that he can do that. And also, Tom Mankiewicz, when they were cutting together the Donner cut, he didn't want to use the kiss, which is why they went with the reversing time ending. He didn't want to use the kiss because he said Clark should never kiss Lois, only Superman should kiss Lois.
The ending for Superman 2 was always turning the world back and turning time backwards. And then at a certain point in Superman 1, they decided to put the most spectacular beat in both films into the end of Superman 1. And Dick said, okay, when we come back to finish Superman 2, we'll just figure out what we're going to do. It was either going to be turning time back or using the Lester magic kiss. And if we use the magic kiss, then we would go back to the White House, and Superman would return the flag back to the White House, and it would end up, and it would be a very patriotic and a very good ending as well, too. But when Tom saw it, he came up with a very good point, and he said, Clark should never kiss Lois. Only Superman should kiss Lois. And the decision was then made to turn the world back, and that allowed us to use the end scene in the Daily Planet, and now you have this version. And I'm very proud of what we've put together.
I don't
agree with that. I think that Clark can kiss. Part of the thing that really makes the relationship for me is that she, like, okay, I keep bringing it back to Smallville because I really feel that they got it, right? She starts dating Clark before she knows who the Blur is, which is, as he's known in Metropolis before he takes on the Superman.
Same in Lois and Clark.
So, what, that she starts dating...
She starts dating Clark before she knows. That was the whole thing. He proposes to her, and then she says, who's asking, Clark or Superman?
Right. So,
and I think in the timeline of Superman and Lois, it's the same thing. He proposes to her in Smallville.
He proposes to her in Smallville, but
They must have been dating before that for him to bring him home to the parents.
Yeah. He reveals who he is to her there.
Yeah.
And then proposes.
It's the same thing. So the idea of Clark dating Lois before she finds
There's
out...
actually a really cool thing in Superman and Lois is that he's doing an interview with her, and she goes away from... they take a break, and she goes to talk to one of her, co-workers, and she's like, oh, he's really cute, and she's like... Oh, he's all full of himself, whatever. And she's like, and anyway, I think I'm in love with Clark, right? And then he hears that,
right? They completely ditched it in the Snyderverse. She knows from the get-go who he is.
Yeah. It's so again, it's you constantly see misinterpretations.
I wouldn't say misinterpretations. I'd say that it's different takes, but the core idea
it's
is
takes
kind
that
of
are missing the point,
Right.
right? And that's why it's a misinterpretation, because she falls in love with Clark Kent,
right.
Because if she's only interested in him because he's Superman, right, then it kind of makes her seem very, very shallow.
That is
right?
all throughout. I mean, Superman 1 and 2, no matter which cut you choose, it's that is the way it is, though.
It is.
She doesn't fall in love with Clark at all. She falls in love only with Superman.
I know, and that's part of the point that I'm making, is that I feel that the drama of Jor-El saying, you cannot put one above the other, is actually one of the main points of contention in Smallville between him and, I don't know if it's necessarily about Lois, but it's about his life as Clark Kent.
Yeah.
He's like saying you have to abandon that.
Right.
And he's saying you can't have both. You have a duty here. You are here for a reason. You have a destiny, and if you cannot meet that destiny, then I'm not bothering with you.
Right.
And I think that there are themes there that were missed in certain interpretations or adaptations of Superman that Donner got. Right. He understood it. I don't think that... I think he did Clark Kent dirty. I think that he misinterpreted it. I think that he should have made it so that she started getting interested in Clark in the second movie, and then after she started getting interested in him, because she started looking at him more, then she gets it.
So I'll pass this one back to Donna again, because Donna said in the intro to the DVD of the Donna cut, he said that if all of that stuff hadn't happened, we could have had a rich sort of series of movies, and he would have directed all of them, presumably like he did with the Lethal Weapon series. And there is a consistency and a through line and an emotional payoffs in the later movies, because those characters, etc.
When I see things like that, and I know what that picture could have been, and what Tom and I keep saying Tom because he's so good, and what Tom and I could have continued, the continuing saga of Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder, it would have been quite a series of films.
You can see how Donna is an asset to more than one film in a series. Like he knows how to develop a character.
He can set stuff up.
So so it's very possible that they would have reversed time at the end of 2, and then in 3 she would have started to notice Clark, because maybe that was his
plan, end
game, that he wanted her to love him.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
No, the only reason I went off on that one is just because of the whole, Superman is the only one who should be kissing Lois.
Right.
It's just a complete misunderstanding of the dynamic.
But at the same time, I think they just wanted to use that footage, because there's quite a bit of footage in the epilogue that would have been left on the cutting room floor if they'd have just gone with the kiss. So I want to talk for a second about the ending of Superman 2, the theatrical cut. So first, there's a scene halfway through after Clark loses his powers where he gets beaten up in a diner by a trucker, because the trucker decides he's going to take Clark's seat, and Clark says to him, "Excuse me, sir, I believe you're sitting in my seat." And the guy goes, like, "Your seat's back there, Four Eyes," because Clark's just come out of the toilet.
I'm sorry, that seat's taken.
It is now, sweetheart. I'll buy you something to eat.
No, thank you.
Excuse me, sir. I think you're sitting in my seat.
Your seat's in there, Four Eyes.
Gee, I think perhaps somebody ought to teach you some manners, sir.
So he beats him up, and then at the end of the movie, he comes back to the diner, and he basically beats up the trucker.
Give me another plate of this garbage.
Garbage? That's my #1 special, Rocky.
All right, eh? There's more coffee, too, eh?
Gee, that's funny. Never seen garbage eat garbage before. Excuse me, sir. I think you're sitting in my favorite seat.
Well, come and get it, Four Eyes.
And it's played for laughs.
I've been
working out.
I'm terribly sorry about all the damage, sir. Oh, I've been working out.
It doesn't look good on him in either cut.
Yeah.
He's the Boy Scout. And then after that, for him to be flying the flag, the roof of the White House back, I won't let you down again, that whole thing. It's just kind of, it doesn't contrast it very well.
Yeah.
The issue that I have with the Donner Cut version of events is that he's turned back time so the trucker wouldn't remember him. Right. So now that scene doesn't play.
It's just him. Yeah, Superman just came and he kicked my butt for absolutely no reason. I have no idea why. He's just a bully.
Yeah.
And then he's like, here's an American flag up your butt.
Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
Mr. Smuggler!
Sorry. Smuggler.
Mr. Smuggler! Drop page. Warbucks continue.
Superman 2, the Richard Donner Cut, was brought about much the same manner as the Justice League Snyder Cut.
Mm-hmm.
Was that there was an overwhelming fan demand to see the version that never was. And to be honest, I think that the results are pretty similar. Because the Snyder Cut of Justice League is miles better than what Joss Whedon put together for the theatrical cut, and the Donner Cut shows much more potential of what could have been than the Lester Cut. So here we go. Michael Thor is the editor that worked on that in 2005, 2006, and I have a few criticisms. I understand that that there were certain constraints. Warner Brothers unearthed all the negative, and they had to go through it, and they had to clean it up, and they had to find everything, all of the audio elements as well, and then scan it, and then they edited it on an Avid, which is not how they would have edited it back in the day. Obviously, they would have edited it on a spool-to-spool, physical cuts, etc., etc. So there are certain methods and techniques that were definitely influenced by the modern technology of the time. And I know I'm saying modern because 2006 is now quite a few years ago.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, 17 years ago.
Fuck me.
Fuck me indeed. Yeah, there are things that that probably wouldn't have been done. And you imagine like a film on film cross dissolve. There's a very different look to it than a Premiere Pro or an Avid, transition effect cross dissolve. So it's the kinds of things that, as an editor, sort of raised a red flag to me watching it this time around. But they had major budget constraints because Warner Brothers said to them, "We're not sure if this is going to sell, but here you go, have at it. This is your budget," and that was it.
Right.
So, and you can see in the behind-the-scenes footage as well that Donna's sitting in the edit suite, giving direction to Michael Thor, and he said, "Why didn't you do it like this?" And Michael Thor said, "Well, we do have budgetary constraints."
Nowadays, we'd use computer graphics and to even that all out, huh? Why didn't you do it?
We do have a budget.
Huh?
We do have a budget that we try to stick with.
Oh, why?
Yeah, I know.
You trying to end your career?
It's really cool if you can find that behind the scenes documentary about the Richard Donner Cut. There's a lot of kind of almost there's like the usual backslapping. The sort of self-congratulatory kind of, this is great and everybody's great and everybody's
we're all a big happy family.
Yeah, we're all a big happy family. But there's also like some real fly on the wall stuff in the edit suite that's kind of unfiltered.
Boy, I like this.
I like it too.
Why did you take all this out?
Jeez, Michael.
Look at that. For the bad effects. That's
no, we would have.
Oh, put that back in. Boy,
Dick, boy, Michael, what must you have been thinking?
Boy, you drink a lot during the day?
You can see exactly how miserable Donner was about the fact that Lester took over from him, and how much it still hurts him.
When we did find the footage, and it took months and months and months, Dick came over and saw all the scenes. He also didn't want to deal too much with the Lester scenes that needed to be left in to make a complete story. But I realized after a while that he had been familiar with those scenes, and they hurt him, I think. That was always a sore spot.
First off, I want to talk about the overlong recap. So,
oh my God, it was 8 minutes long.
So here's the thing. In the theatrical cut, there's a montage.
Yeah.
Okay? I like the montage. I do. And I've shown it to my kids a few times because it's the only way at this point that I'm going to show them anything Superman-y. But they get to see all those scenes cut together and with the theme.
You can show them him flying around saving people.
Yeah, but the movie itself, they're not ready for that yet. There are certain things that are like all the bodies falling in the Krypton sequence at the beginning, and there are certain things that are a little bit too strong, I think. So, but anyway, I like the title sequence in the theatrical cut. There is a moment where you hear this sort of unnatural for somebody who's listened to the John Williams opening titles track many times, that there's like an extra little bit that Ken Thorne added on there in order to lengthen that sequence. You don't need to see the entire movie, so it's a very long sequence. Now when it comes to the Donner cut, they could have gone straight from the Kryptonians being imprisoned in the Phantom Zone to the push of the button, the missile being fired, Gene Hackman chuckling, and then him flying into to save it. You could have like a quote of like a soundbite of Hackman going, "It's 2 missiles, Superman." I've
seen more efficient previously.
Right. It could have been a lot more precise.
Is it 6 or 8 minutes? I can't remember. I remember looking at my phone and going, "Oh my god, this is already 6 minutes in."
Right.
But it wasn't done yet.
Right. You don't need to see all of that. You don't need to see Miss Tessmacher.
Miss Tessmacher!
You don't need to see Miss Tessmacher saving Superman. You don't need to see him, you don't need to see any of that stuff. All you need to see is him going after the missile. You establish why the missile has been fired, what it is, and who he's saving. And then missile going up into space, Phantom Zone explodes, the Kryptonians come out, free, and then the dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun,
I'm getting shivers. I can't. It's too much. It's too much for me. It's that sound that as it goes by, and the music. I cannot.
There is that. I think that's a little bit shoddy. The editing on that recap, and also the Krypton sequence. The Krypton sequence could have just been
used,
copy pasted, exactly as it was, because the alternate takes that Thor used. And he talks about this as well, that it was exciting for him to use alternate takes of but it dampens the intent. It dampens the.
There was a reason that those takes were chosen,
right?
Is because they are the best ones,
right?
So use them.
I did have access to Superman 1, and we all thought it would be kind of cool to show scenes from a different angle. It's the same scene, the same line readings, but showing things from a different perspective, like when Zod is screaming at Brando as he's walking away in Superman 1, all those lines were played off of his eyes or his mouth, and this time you can see fuller shots of Zod screaming.
You will bow down before me! Both you, and then one day, your ass!
There's the awful Starfield in compositing. They really could have just used elements of the old Starfield. Why did they need to recreate the Starfield in CGI where it's got like that horrible kind of PowerPointy look to it?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure that they had the elements of the Starfield that were used in the original miniature photography that with the suns and the liquid that looks like nebulas and stuff like that.
I have to say that I've written about this in the VFX thing, but I haven't gone into a lot of detail about the Richard Donner cut.
Right.
I'll say it then, but it's just I have thoughts.
There's also a lot of 2006 After Effects work in that sequence with they sort of like go into the Phantom Zone and they see their distorted faces, and then they come out and they see like there's a texture on the glass of the Phantom Zone that doesn't need to be there, that kind of makes it look like it's a CRT television screen. There's also there's also texture later on Jor-El that doesn't need to be there. All of that stuff that they wanted to make it look more modern. Well, I thought that they were trying to seamlessly blend it into 1978, 980.
No, they weren't. They were trying to give it a sort of new coat of paint.
Right,
well.
And it's just not necessary. It brings me back to George Lucas tinkering with the original trilogy of Star Wars. And there's also there's a wobbly keyframe.
Where?
In the title sequence. It's either Jackie Cooper or Ned Beatty, where it goes, it comes in, and then it kind of straightens itself up, and it goes.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll show you that one.
That's
as well.
a shame.
Yeah. So I noticed that. That's nitpicking. That's really nitpicking, ladies and gentlemen.
I think I was just not watching it with that kind of scrutiny. Like when we, I guess I wasn't doing my job properly when we were sitting. When we were sitting watching some of the movies that we've done on this podcast, I sit there and my eyes are like peeled and like I'm watching for the smallest one misstep, and I will write it down. Right. And I was just like. Just enjoying it. I don't know. Like I was just like watching it for fun. I should have been writing more about it. There is a lot to say about the effects. I wrote more about the first movie than I did the second movie.
Right.
All right, continue.
The reason why I'm scrutinizing it like this is because it's kind of a fan edit. The fact that it was edited on an Avid and not on, like it wasn't like cut physically on film, and it's basically it made me think if I was an editor. I am an editor. But if I was re-editing the Donner cut, if I was given all of that footage, digitized, logged, all of the sound elements, all of everything, all of the composite elements, all of the assets, as it were. If I was given all that, how would I go about doing this? And because I was able to look at Michael Thor as like somebody kind of like me in that sense, I was able to put myself in his shoes and go, why did he make that decision? Why did that? So that's why I'm looking at it.
Your profession. That's what you do. Like
no, but normally I wouldn't. But because I know that it was re-edited a couple of decades afterwards, it kind of made me rethink it. What was it? 26 years. So it kind of made me think about it in sort of a more literal sense. I was really looking at the editing.
Okay.
And the way things are placed as well. Yeah, there's also, to that end, there's also quite a few missing sound effects. Did you notice?
Missing sound effects?
Yeah, for example, when Ursa, played by Sarah Douglas, flies down onto the moon, there's no whooshing effect. Which
you're right. I did notice that. No, you're right. I thought that... it's... Okay, so I noticed that, but I was going... Oh, cool. There's no sound in space. Because and then afterwards they're talking.
But then also when...
there are whooshes
when they fly by, and, it's just inconsistent.
I guess that... Okay, so I have full disclosure. I was not on top of things when I was watching the Richard Donner cut.
There's also, like, she's lasering the snake.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that sound effect is missing.
Oh.
There's quite a few things in the...
I have powers beyond reason here.
We all have them, my dear. Yeah. Non is more vicious and less comic.
Yeah.
So they completely cut out that bit with the log.
All of his... and the chakalaka, what's it called? The siren.
Yeah. In cutting out some of Lester's footage, there are pacing issues. Now, I've said it before that it's a curio, basically. It's an incomplete movie. It's an extended special feature. But if you're watching it through, you'll see that that they keep cutting back between Clark and Lois in Niagara Falls,
mm-hmm.
and then back to Lex and Miss Tessmacher in the Fortress of Solitude, or on the way to the Fortress of Solitude,
mm-hmm.
and then immediately back. There's not a lot. They're very short scenes back and forth, and that's because the Lester stuff got cut. So that kind of stuff suffers. But then once they get into the Fortress of Solitude and you see Brando for the first time, it's like that. This is why this cut exists,
right?
Because Marlon Brando died, and they didn't have to pay anybody to use his likeness anymore.
I thought that they did. They got permission to use.
They got permission from the estate
to use his likeness. I think they paid them for it for
probably not the amount he was
Returns,
asking. Yeah,
and then on the back of that they got for this as well.
Right, indeed. There's more background of the three Kryptonians because Jor-El explains to Lex Luthor, thinking that he's Kal-El, about where they come from. So now you know when Clark is in the diner later on and he sees Zod on the on TV terrorizing a small town, he goes, Zod! It's like, in the Lester cut, you're going, well, how did you know who that is? And now you know. So there you go. Never cut Brando out of a movie. That's basically the moral of this story.
There's this whole sequence where Jor-El is trying to dissuade Clark from
going
powerless and living, like, because he says to him, you cannot give more love and energy to one person than you do to the rest of the world. You have a destiny. This is your purpose for being here, right? You have all these gifts. You have all this, power. You can't give it all to one person. It's very different in the Lester cut, as you said, that Lara says to him, you shouldn't do this. And he goes, I want to. And then she goes, all right. And in this one, there's...
Well, if you want to.
I mean, if you really want to. I didn't realize you really, really, really wanted it. Sounds like an argument with my eldest. It really does. He says to me, I want cereal. No, we're going to have dinner in 10 minutes, and that's not what's for dinner. But I really, 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 really want it. Oh, if you put it like that, that's kind of how I talk to him. Anyway, so the back and forth between him and Jor-El, and there's a bit of an argument, and then Christopher Reeve kind of he lifts up his finger at him, and he goes, Father, I love her. He's very very
emphatic.
Think, Kal-El. I beg you.
Father, I love her.
And this is an interesting thing that I don't think has ever been explained, nor do I think it really needs to be. How sentient is Jor-El in these movies? Because, there are times when he says, so my son, speak. He's waiting for him to speak. He recognizes that he's spoken. Okay, maybe he understands inputs and all that. But then in the second movie, in the Donner cut, right, you've got him completely unaware that there are intruders in the Fortress of Solitude and that Lex Luthor is talking to him and that he's not his son and, all of that. Okay, so he's not sentient. And then later on, you've got this whole sequence where he's arguing with his son. And then while he's taking away his powers, Lois is standing up on the ledge and he looks up at her.
This big floating head.
This big floating head turns around and looks up at her. And I said the other day, I said something wrong. I said to you, it's terrifying. I didn't mean that. I meant it's chilling. It kind of sends a chill up your spine.
Yeah, and then she takes a step back.
She takes a step back, yeah. And it's just so very... obviously, Donner is using those moments of sentience or awareness for very powerful effect. Like later on, which I'm sure you want to get to, but I'll just say it now. When Clark wants his powers back, and, this head is talking at him, and he's trying to communicate with him, and he realizes that it's just a pre-recorded message. At one point, Jor-El says, look at me, Kal-El, right? And it's a very emotional kind of moment, and it's really done well. So I don't need to really know how the sentience works, but it is used very sparingly.
Well, I can hear you. Well, not hear you exactly, but I know everything you're going to say.
So yeah, I really like that sequence where he's losing his powers and Jor-El looks up at Lois. I think that's really, really cool.
My son. The angels have the phone box. Yeah, so... sorry.
You have lost your marbles. You've fallen to pieces.
Yes, indeed.
Since Preston walked off.
So then in the Donner cut, you see that the original plan all along was to have Jor-El give of his essence.
Yeah.
Of whatever.
The rest of his life force.
Right. And it's very emotional and very affecting.
Beautiful.
And he's lost his father for all time. He's never going to see him again. And it's like
a harsh lesson.
It's also the ultimate sacrifice.
Father becomes the son.
Yeah, and all of that, by the way, which...
the son becomes the father, and the father becomes the son.
The Kryptonian prophecy will be at last fulfilled. The son becomes the father becomes the son.
All of that in the first movie was completely left on the cutting room floor for the Lester cut. So now it gets its payoff.
Right, which gives further credence to what you said about how Donner had a plan that perhaps if he had been allowed to continue, he would have continued dropping these little, seeds that then would meet their kind of, fruition in the third movie, where suddenly Lois is interested in Clark and,
right.
sees his value.
Right. It's very interesting how that works, and the trajectory of it as well, because in the Lester cut, they don't really explain how he gets his powers back.
No, they really don't.
He lifts up the crystal, and then...
There he goes.
That's it.
Mother! and then he picks up the crystal.
Right.
And then he looks at it very confused, like, and is kind of mirroring the audience's,
And then, General, you care to step outside?
That's what he says, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's the next time you see him.
You ever heard of freedom of the press?
Yeah.
That's in the Donnercut.
That's in the Donnercut. It's Donnercat?
The Donnercat.
Yes. It's less... it's much less effective than what's in the Lester Cut, to be honest.
General, haven't you ever heard of freedom of the press?
Superman!
General, would you care to step outside?
Superman!
Hi, old Johnny here. Just a quick side note. We forgot to make fun of Ursa from the Battle of Metropolis scene when she goes, Thoopahman.
Superman!
There it is, that's all. Carry on. So there's another scene, another very high-profile scene that was cut from the Lester Cut, and that is when Soups destroys the fortress.
Yep.
Do you want to tell me what you gleaned from that? What did you think?
In the Lester Cut?
No, it's not in the Lester Cut. It's only in the Donner Cut, yeah.
He destroys the fortress.
He destroys the fortress and basically says goodbye to Lois. When he's
at the end?
Yeah, at the end. They're outside the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
And he uses his laser vision to destroy the fortress. Which is funny because the fortress exists in Superman Returns. That's what I mean when I say it's a patchwork, because there's so much inconsistency.
I don't understand the motivation for that, to be honest.
Okay.
If we're to understand, perhaps maybe he did that because it's a symbol of having matured past needing guidance from his father. Like, his father has passed on,
right,
and there's nothing left for him there, and the only thing that fortress can do now is take away his powers, and he wants to kind of stop that from being the case, and he doesn't want any of the Kryptonian knowledge to fall into the wrong hands.
Mm-hmm.
So there are reasons for it, but none of it is telegraphed in any way. That's my, no prize, adding my reasoning behind why he would do that. What about you?
I like it mainly because of the scene that he has with Lois. That he's basically saying goodbye to her, and the next thing that he does after that is to turn time back.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is there's a deleted scene which shows the Kryptonians getting carted off. So they fall through the smoke, but they're not dead.
Right.
But it's not in the Donner Cut, but I don't know where it is. But in any case, they solved that problem by reversing time and having them recaptured into the Phantom Zone during the sort of the whole reversal sequence. Yeah.
Falling into the smoke.
No, so he doesn't say, I remember now, he doesn't say goodbye to Lois outside the fortress, but he has a conversation with her that leads to another rooftop sequence where she says, "Your secret's safe with me." But it's not about that. It's the pain of knowing. He wants to spare her that pain, so he does the back in time thing. And we talked about in the last episode how I've been working out is completely out of place now.
Yeah. Bully Superman.
Yeah, bully Superman. But anyway, I think that's basically all I really had to say about the Donner Cut. I covered most of it when we talked about the theatrical cut last episode.
There's definitely a lot missing, but I really don't like the Lester Cut. I used to when I was a kid, but once you explained what could have been to me before there was a Donner Cut,
right,
I was already out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Donner Cut came along, I was like, oh, and then I watched it and I was like, oh, and
right,
yeah, there's a lot missing, but for me it is complete enough that after watching Superman 1 or Superman the movie, I will watch the Donner Cut.
Right.
Instead of the Lester one.
I put a post on Facebook asking for people to tell us what they thought, which they prefer. I think it's clear that you and I both prefer the Donner Cut. On the Empire Group, Dominic Miller says, Donner, 100%. Yes, it's effectively incomplete, but I genuinely hate how Superman leaps to giving his powers the moment after sleeping with Lois in the Lester Cut. In Donner, he gives up his powers because Jor-El forces him to choose between them and Lois, and you can understand Clark's anger at being denied both when Lois is the only thing he's ever wanted for himself. Plus, getting his powers back requires an enormous sacrifice in that Clark loses the last piece of Jor-El, whereas he seems to get his powers back no problem in the Lester version. So I've written here all great points, well made, and then we had a bit of a back and forth. But yeah, I mean, basically that back and forth is comprised of things that you and I have been talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, agree with you 100%.
Thank you for writing to us.
Thank you for writing to us.
I think that the problem with him getting his powers so easily in the Lester cut is the problem that you find in most sort of problem solving. Once you've reached that hero's lowest point in a movie, how do they get out of it? It didn't require any discipline to attain it.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's
if
not.
You didn't give it all you've got. I don't want it.
I was doing Jeff Goldblum.
So I was doing John Travolta.
I know what you were doing. Anyway, that's the biggest problem. Is it's almost a mother who can't stop who just can't say no. To her son. Oh, he's upset. Here's a crystal.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more weight to it, Jor-El's. You will never see me again. You have made an incredibly grave error. I hope you learn from it.
Yeah, he's being scolded.
He's being a dad.
Yeah, he's being a dad, absolutely. My general feeling about the Donner cut is it's my preferred version, but it's incomplete. The Lester cut is also incomplete. And the difference between this whole situation and the whole Justice League situation...
Justice League?
Yeah,
I like that.
Is that Snyder completed most of the movie.
Und Schneider.
Schneider completed most of the movie. X-Men First Class. Schneider...
Schweinbauer. Und Schneider.
Schweinebauern. Und Schneider.
Dr. Schneider. How many more Schneiders are there?
Captain Nikolai? I don't know.
No,
please move on.
Yeah. So Snyder was able to complete most of the movie before he had a tragedy and before Warner Brothers shamelessly used it as an opportunity to sort of like edge him out and get somebody in who was going to make it a little bit more marvelly. He came back to the Snyder cut not long after the Joss Whedon theatrical version was released, and he was able to do reshoots with the original actors, and he was able to access the original elements a lot more easily. So it's more seamless than the Donner cut could ever be with 26 years in the interim, basically. Mm-hmm. So I'm of the mind that neither version is complete. And it's just all a very big miss of opportunity. It's like a big what if.
I agree.
But I find it endlessly fascinating. So there you go. Do you want to go over to Trivia Corner?
Let's do it.
Why am I talking like this?
Let's do it like that then.
Trivia Corner.
Why are you a Dalek? Okay, let's do it.
Trivia Corner. The corner. Destroy the corner.
Okay, sorry. In a 2004 interview, Marco Kidder claimed that Richard Donner shot enough scenes to make his own cut of the film and that the unused footage was somewhere in a vault. A website started a petition for Warner Brothers to allow and sponsor Donner's cut of this movie. The footage was re-edited into Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. Why is that important? Because it was apparently Margot Kidder that suggested this whole thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. During one take of the shot in which Lois punches Ursa, Margot Kidder accidentally punched Sarah Douglas and knocked her unconscious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Margot Kidder was very unhappy during filming. Here's why she looks gaunt. She was very unhappy during filming as her marriage to Thomas McGuane was ending. She missed original director Richard Donner and was aware that she was being very well paid to do a very small amount of work. In a 1981 interview with Rolling Stone, she recalled that for several weeks I sat around my dressing room, listened to music, read The Great Shark Hunt and Orwell, and a lot of French literature, wrote letters, worked on a screenplay, went through a divorce, and every so often I went on the set and said a line like, "Oh, Superman, Superman." So that's the there you go, another proof. If I was like putting Lester on trial,
yeah,
another proof of like exactly how much he didn't give a shit,
and how he didn't get it.
Yeah,
I think if you get it, you would have given a shit.
Right,
like it was just a paycheck.
Is it Valerie Perrine or Valerie Perrine?
Mitch Testwagen!
I'll never know. Yeah. Anyway, so as we said earlier, her scenes were cut from, and they were never completed as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of her was left on the cutting room floor in the Lester cut, and she never completed her shoot. So she disappears from the theatrical cut halfway through. and from the Donner cut as well. Here are the actors that only worked with Richard Donner. So this is another way to tell which cut is which. There's Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, Ned Beatty as Otis, Valerie Perrine or Perrine as Eve Tessmacher, and E.G. Marshall as the president. All of the stuff in the Oval Office was Donner. Director Richard Lester was not sympathetic to the epic look that Richard Donner had given to Superman, saying that he didn't want to do the David Lean thing. Lester decided to scrap most of the Oscar-winning cinematographer Jeffrey Unsworth's footage and hired director Michael Winner's cinematographer Robert Painter to create a style that would evoke Superman's roots in comic books. Lester, Painter, and a camera operator, Freddie Cooper, replaced Unsworth's gliding camera with horizontal panning and static framing to evoke comic books and comic strips, with static frames crammed with people and objects. Harkening back to the techniques of the early sound era, Lester's films had always been shot with 3 cameras filming the action simultaneously. 2 cameras for close-ups, 1 for the long shot. Lester's technique added to the friction on set caused by Donner's firing, and Margot Kidder particularly disliked him.
They were frustrated about the 3-camera setup because they couldn't tell which camera was for their close-up.
Right.
So
actors generally tend to, like, really seasoned actors tend to understand what, like, if they ask the cinematographer what focal length they're shooting with, they'll know basically where they're supposed to be in the frame and how much of them fills the frame. The real pros like really know how to hit a mark, etc. And with 3 cameras filming, it's more of a free-for-all. It's less accurate, I guess. According to Sarah Douglas and Jack O'Halloran, who played Ursa and Non respectively, they did not get along with Christopher Reeve.
Oh.
You can see just exactly how much bullshit went on behind the scenes of this movie.
Yeah.
When Superman saves the boy at Niagara Falls, a woman in the crowd of onlookers can be heard saying, "What a nice man. Of course he's Jewish." Superman's parents, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, were the children of Jewish immigrants. Many fans and scholars have long argued that they created the character in 1938 as a Jewish-American response to the Nazi idealization of Friedrich Nietzsche's Übermensch, a term that can be translated as Superman. Superman, like thousands of Jewish refugees who were fleeing from Europe at the time, was an alien from a war-torn place. Also, his story bears no small resemblance to that of Moses, and his original name, Kal-El, contains El, the original name of the chief Canaanite Hebrew deity. The reason why I read this to you now is because I wanted to underline the Jewish origins of Superman, because
there's a lot of Jesus.
There's a lot of that going on.
Shit.
Donner was Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Singer's Jewish, Brian Singer, and I think, I'm not sure, but Snyder sounds like a Jewish name as well.
You have no way of
I have no
that.
I can confirm.
No,
that.
I mean
I can Google it
based on what you just
based
said.
On what I'm saying,
is not.
No, but the thing is that Snyder and Singer's interpretations of it are very much Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in both of those interpretations, you've got the sort of the pose, the Jesus pose, with the arms outstretched when they're falling in space.
Which is what's so silly, because he should be neither. He should be neither Jewish nor Christian.
Right.
He should be his own thing. But whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Donner claims. Okay, so here's where the sort of the conflicting reports come in. Richard Donner claims he was fired from Superman 2 because of the pettiness and greed of the Salkinds, and this is pretty much what the public as well as the cast and crew of the movie thinks too, but the Salkinds have a different story. They say that they offered Richard Donner the director's seat again for Superman 2, but Donner made a demand that producer Pierre Spengler be fired for him to return. Spengler reportedly fought with Donner about going over budget and going over schedule often on the set of Superman the movie, to the point where Donner felt that he could not work with him anymore. Unfortunately, Spengler was one of the original founders of the project, along with the Salkinds, so they did not feel that they could let him go. So instead of acquiescing to Donner, they moved forward without him. So technically, if that's true, that wouldn't be a firing. That would just be a breakdown of negotiations. Whichever one's true, they made a bad decision. Here's what I was talking about before, about the deleted scene that doesn't even end up in the Donner cut. Jack O'Halloran, who played Non, revealed that Superman didn't kill Ursa, Zod, and Non at the end. He told Yahoo Entertainment that director Richard Donner filmed an extra scene that confirmed all 3 villains survived and were carted off to a terrestrial prison instead of the Phantom Zone. But that scene was cut from both the theatrical version and the Donner cut. He also added that he regrets that some viewers have spent years believing that Superman kills his fellow Kryptonians, and took a pointed dig at Man of Steel for further perpetuating that impression. He said, the beauty of Superman and Superman 2 is the fact that Superman wasn't flying around killing villains. He was putting them in jail. There was an American way of law and order about it. That's what's wrong with the movies they did afterwards. They got darker and darker and darker. Those two films still stand up after all these years. So there you go. From Non himself. Superman did not...
can't talk.
Superman did not kill the 3 Kryptonians.
There you go.
Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Well, that was...
Do you feel spent?
That was epic. Just like Superman 1 and 2, we recorded these 2 episodes back to back.
But with very little cutout. No, I'm joking.
Yes.
I feel spent.
I'm spent. I said last week that that this week was going to be Indiana Jones. It wasn't, and I lied, and I'm sorry.
But the next one will be.
Yes.
Right? We're doing Indy.
We're doing Indy
1 and
next,
2.
Yes, Indy 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. So we are, this week was in honor of the 85th birthday of Superman.
Superman.
So happy birthday, Supes, and thank you for all the years. And next week we'll be talking about...
Does he listen to the podcast?
Who, Superman?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course he does.
Really?
Yes, he does.
Do you have his number?
Well, he was here just a minute ago.
What? Where? Superman was here? Golly. Did I pick up on your cue?
Yeah.
Okay,
Very good. He has a big one, or he has nothing. Not us, buddy, right? Not us. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, this got off the rails quick, didn't
Completely. The only thing left to do is to say bye.
What's our seat number?
Superman